Now, let us understand some conceptual building blocks that are common in any programming language. We will learn about all these conceptual building blocks in more detail for specifically Python language in the next module, but here I would like to give you the idea of each of these building blocks. The first thing that I would like to describe is called data type. A data type is a particular type of data item as defined by their values it can take or the operation that can be performed on it. The type of data can be many. For example, it can be a numeric type. Again, when it is numeric, it may have a decimal point, which is called integer, or it may not have a decimal point, which is called an integer, or it may have a decimal point, in which case it is called a floating point number. Other than numeric value, it can be a single character, it can be a full text or a string, or it can be just a true false or yes no or 0 1, in which case it is called a Boolean data type. The next is an identifier. Identifier is exactly same as the concept of variable that you have used in basic mathematics. If we want to formally define an identifier, it will be like a memory location inside the computer which is given a name for its identification. And that memory location can store one single data item. Well, do not get confused with this formal definition. It's exactly same as the concept of variable that you have used in your basic mathematics. Now, sometimes it is possible to change the identifier over a program, in the course of a program. For example, here I is a variable whose value is 10. After some point, you have changed the value of I to 28. Or let's say right now the character C is storing a character A, and at some point of the program it is storing the character X. Something like that. In the program, it is also possible to explicitly mention some identifier that will not change over the program. In that case, it is called a constant. Most of the time, the global values that do not change really, we use them as constant. For example, the value of pi. It is 3.14 all the time. It cannot change anywhere. So pi is basically a constant. Then the value of gravity. In some unit, it has a value of 9.81. It is not going to change anywhere. So those are the constant. In program, it is possible to explicitly mention that, well, in the course of the entire program, if someone wants to change constant, they will get an error. Sometimes it is required to store many data items in one variable or in one identifier. At that time, you have to use the concept of array. Array means it can store many different variables under the same name, but using an index. For example, let's say a receptionist maintaining a long queue in front of a restaurant. There are two different ways a receptionist can maintain the queue. Number one is the receptionist needs to address each of the individual person in the queue, as you can see here, with their names. For example, Alice, Bob, Charles, David, like that. The receptionist can say that Alice, go to the back of the line. Bob, come to the front of the line. Or something like that. But do you think that is very feasible? Is it possible to know every individual's name in a queue? Of course not. Rather, a much better way to address them with the location where they are standing. For example, the receptionist can say that person 0, please go to the back of the queue. Person 1, please come to the front. Or person 2, stay where you are now. Something like that. So what the receptionist is doing, the receptionist is using the same name person followed by an index to identify each of them. That is an array. We will learn about it in the next module with Python programming language, but this is the general concept. The next basic building block is operators. I'm pretty sure you all have used some type of operators in your mathematics. So, in order to define it formally, you can say that an operator is basically a symbol that tells the compiler or the interpreter to perform some specific mathematical or relational or logical operation and produce final result. I am pretty sure in your basic mathematics you have used many different type of arithmetic operators or sometimes the comparison or relational operator like greater than, less than, something like that. Now in programming, other than arithmetic and comparison or relational operator, there are some more operators also. For example, logical operators, bitwise operator, etc., etc. We will learn about those operators in the next module in more detail when we will discuss Python programming language with hands-on examples. So here are some of the different types of operators that are supported by most of the programming language. For example, arithmetic operator, relational and comparison operator, logical operator, assignment operator, bitwise operators, and there are several other miscellaneous operators to facilitate the developers with many different facilities in the program. We will learn more about it in the next module. And here is the final piece of the building blocks, which are called keywords. Keywords are the words indicating a specific concept of great significance. Each programming language has some specific sets of keywords. These keywords have some specific meaning, and you cannot use those words as variable or constant names, and you cannot use these names and identifier. For example, in real world, we use lots of English words, right? For example, just consider any English word. Let's say human. Human means human. You cannot use the meaning of, you cannot change the meaning of a human to tiger or dog or something like that, right? Human means only human, and it has a specific, it is depicting some specific concept. Just like that, in programming also, there are several words that have some specific concept of some specific significance. For example, if, else, for, while. Those words or those specific words are called keywords in program.